Oh.
I did. Could you release it, please?
Start the meeting over.
Yes.
Perfect.
Good. Hey, good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and start the Mojave La Paz Workforce Development Board Executive Committee. Rachel, could you do a roll call for me?
Kenda Robinson,
Here.
Tommy Taylor,
Here.
Shauna Marshall,
Here.
Matt Brewster.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Perfect. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, we're going to move on to item 1, approval of the October 13th, 2022 meeting minutes, and all this was in your backup. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns about that? Okay, hearing none, can I get a motion to pass those, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second Chana.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to the second item, review of Mojave La Paz Workforce Development Board attendance, resignations, requests for nominations to join the WDB, new or renewal, appointments by the Board of Supervisors, new appointment, Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we'll go through the members. The first one being Larry Lord, Construction. Kenda, as well as myself, met with Mr. Lord. He runs a construction company out of La Paz. He does something similar to Mike Rowe. And great opportunity, and he works with the local community college there as well, Arizona Western College. So that's great, and it's great to have that member there. I can answer any questions, but I'll run through all the candidates and then answer questions. The next one will be Maria Hannot, and this is going to be for Voc Rehab, Title IV, and she'll be taking the remaining term of Olin Wafer from now till December 2025. The third one here will be discussion for the board. On this item, we currently have a Title II provider who has met with Craig Lefevre, excuse me. With this being said, we have 3 Title II providers. We only need to have 1 Title II provider. With that being said, we received a recommendation from Cheryl Hart, Title II Education, and that recommendation was somebody from MCC, as well as Kathy O'Campbell. It's my understanding that the representative from Mojave Community College has retired, is no longer with MCC. So at this time, we have 1 candidate for the local area that can serve, and that would be Kathy O'Campbell. So what we'll have transition is Craig Lefevre will resign the Title II because we now have a local Title II provider. However, it's up to the board's discretion if they'd like to move forward and keep Craig on as the Title II provider for virtual services online. That funding is paid for, it doesn't cost the local area anything. So with that being said, Madam Chair, that's where we're at for the Title II. So we'll need the board will have to come up with a motion for the Title II. And if there's any clarification needed on that, I can provide it. The 4th candidate will be Zafir Jesse, and I probably messed up the name, but I apologize. And he's going to represent the economic development company for La Paz, just so everybody's aware of that. He's also the local CEO of the hospital, but in this position for the board, he'll be representing the PED down there for this economic development. So those are the 4 candidates. With that being said, we are still in compliance with, and here you can see it as well, the letter of recommendation for Mr. Zafir. If there's any questions, I can answer those. But what I was saying is Madam Chair, in regards to board members on, off, and within that, we're within the guidance and the law for the appropriate board members at this time.
Okay, thank you, Rick. I have a question though. So for today's, because doesn't have to go before the entire board, right? For the
Correct.
vote. So we need to vote today on these as well?
Right, so part of the exact what we've done, Madam Chair, is if we do not get a quorum, which has never happened in the past 2.5, a little over 2 years that I've been here, these action items could carry forward.
Gotcha.
And then from there, the next time a full board is present, we could ratify all of this in one vote.
Okay, so what I'd like to do though, just to keep it clear, I'd like to put it out to the board to approve or get a motion to approve for Larry, Lord, Maria Hadnot, and Zafir, and then do a Title II separately, since there's more to it.
Sure.
Okay, so at this time I can ask for a motion to go ahead and appoint these as our new WDB for Larry, Lord, Maria Hadnot, and Zafir.
So moved.
Thank you, Tommy. Can I get a second?
I'll second Chana.
This is Matt.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. As another part of this, I'd like to also discuss, first of all, I would like to throw it out there that we do make a motion for Kathleen Ocampo, and then make it a separate motion for Craig Lefevre if we're going to keep him on. So can I get a motion to go ahead and appoint Kathleen Ocampo to the board?
So moved.
Thank you, Tommy. Can I get a second?
I'll second Chana Marshall.
Thank you, Shauna. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Don't we need that in on this too? Oh, it's not voting.
Yeah, as long as he
He doesn't oppose it, okay.
Silence.
All right, the second part of this, we need to discuss and see if we want to keep Craig Lefevre in as a virtual services online. It does not cost the board anything, like the director said. Do we want to do that, or just go with Kathleen Ocampo as our Title II representative?
So my question to that is, what's his interest in remaining? Because, I mean, to me, if he has no interest, then is it really going to be effective, or?
Madam Chair, Vice Chair Tommy Taylor. So with that being said, a couple things that I just want to clarify. There's 3 providers for Title II right now. One of those are virtual, the other 2 are local. The law states that we only have to have 1 Title II representative on the board. Currently, it's my understanding that neither MCC nor Arizona Western College will be providing virtual services. So the virtual services is something that I think as a board, it only enhances the local area. It doesn't cost us as a local board or local area any funds, but it gives the opportunity for students or for people that want to engage the virtual an opportunity to provide that as well. If during the course of time we hear that either Arizona Western College or FCC is going to move to a virtual, then I think that's something that can come back to the board, and the board will make that decision. But just to clarify, those are the requirements needed for this. I would say that the part with Craig Lefevre is that he has past experience running Title II. He sent a nice letter as well as provided some other information when we were going through this of different things that he currently does in other areas as a provider. He said that he would work with AWC and MCC in the transition, so it would be a smooth transition. Just to share that as well. I'll answer any other questions or follow-up questions.
Well, in my opinion, it would be good to keep it because, like you said, it's only going to enhance the services. It's only going to be another one of our tools that we're not having to put out more money for or anything like that. It's just another tool we have in the toolbox. So my recommendation would be to go ahead and keep him as virtual so he can, then we would have him and Kathleen O'Campbell, him as virtual.
I agree totally with you. I just wanted to gauge his interest because I just don't want someone to have a bad experience because he really doesn't want to do it, but
Yeah.
he is. That was my only issue or concern asking that question, so.
Madam Chair, the Vice Chair, Tommy. So to go to that point, I actually had a conversation with Mr. Reviewer in regards to that. When he first came on board as a Title II representative, he did meet with the One Stop, he did provide us flyers, and he did meet with Title IB as well to make sure that his services were available, people knew that. I think as we look at things as well as a local workforce board and having the tools and access that we have through our new platforms and different things that we can do, I think there may be more opportunities that might have been missed marketing wise that will be present in the future. And he was engaged and he did want to stay. He did want to stay on the board. He made that clear to me in conversations.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns before we move on? Okay, so I'm going to put another for a motion to go ahead and keep Craig Lefevre as our Title II representative for the virtual services online.
Madam Chair, so he won't be on the board. He will just be a Title II provider. So
okay.
we will only have one, just for
Just
clarification,
catching.
we will only have one provider, and that provider, I've spoken to Kathleen O'Campbell as well, and in regards to coordinating, she will coordinate it with
Gotcha.
FCC and Craig to report to the local board for that Title II
Perfect, so
provider.
he's just like another resource for
Right,
us.
but we still want to keep him as a Title II provider.
Sure.
If it's the board's will, that they can ask to keep him not as a Title II provider, but just not a board member.
Okay, all right, so do I need a motion on that too?
I would say yes.
Okay, all right, so then I would entertain a motion to keep him on as a Title II provider. He just will not be on the Workforce Development Board. So can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Thank you, Tommy. Can I get a second?
I'll second Shauna.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We're going to move on to item 3, review and accept updates to the Mojave La Paz MOU IFA, Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the MOA, we've been working on this for some time. We brought this to the board at the last meeting. There were some requests from DES in regards to updates. We provided those updates to the state. They were verbiage. One was in regards to a Title IV provider. We updated that. There was a few other verbiage changes provided by the state. We made those changes. The thing that was the most significant for the MOU IFA was on the B3 through B5. They really want to make sure the guidance was that what we changed, prior to updating it, we were using all of the area of the building for the MOU IFA, one-stop evaluation for partners. Moving forward, we're only using the one-stop area for the percentages of square area for the one-stop. So that's what the changes were. Those were approved by DES and signed off as an amended agreement. As you can see here, the amended changes were that we would use Atlas, that FCC FCC would no longer be a part of the provider because they engaged in the contract. And there was one other amendment that was put forth,
Yeah, it's referral system. Sorry. MCC code. Funding. We never looked this up, it's not correct. You can call all police officers. B9 through 109, which is the B3 through B5.
yeah, so we covered everything. So those were the updates for the IFA, MOU. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions on the backup for the MOU IFA? Okay,
Madam Chair, if I could as well. So I did want to also make sure the board was aware, is that this MOU IFA will expire in June of 2023, current year. I've made sure when we work with
can I
DES.
interrupt you for a second? Can you have her mute?
Now I see the order.
Is it?
It's not like.
Thank you.
So the IFA MOU will expire in June of 2023 of this year. Per the MOU itself, we're supposed to have an agreement in place 90 days before it expires. In conversations with DES, I expressed that one of the concerns were in regards to the one-stop operator of the MOU IFA was that the committee that we're supposed to have in place, which we voted the last exec to review the expenditures, they would like to look at how we're allocating the MOU IFA for the one-stop operator cost. Currently, because now we have a comprehensive center in 3 different areas. So it's a little different from where it was at before. So we will be scheduling a meeting with the new administrator for that, as well as other DES key personnel, with Madam Chair and myself to review that, bring that to the board. Because of the timeline and our meeting being April, we most likely will have to have an exec meeting sometime after those meetings have occurred to approve this and to move this forward, just so the board's aware. But there really shouldn't be that many changes except for the percentages allocated to the one-stop operator moving forward. I just want to make sure the board was aware of that as well, and that's all I have on that.
Okay, so we don't need a motion on that?
No.
Okay, any questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 4, review and accept the Quest Dislocated Worker Grant Policy and Procedures. Director Smith.
Madam Chair, I would just ask that for item 3, the exec, you'll need to entertain a motion to approve that and sign it.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, we're gonna back up to item 3. I do need that's okay. I do need a motion to review and accept the changes to the Mojave La Paz MOU IFA. Need a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Tommy. Can I get a second?
You're muted.
I can't unmute them. I can only mute them.
Can I get a second to that motion?
You let her know.
You're muted.
Oh, just Shauna, I'll second.
Thank you, Shauna. All in favor, say aye. Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, now we'll move on to item 4, review and accept the Quest Dislocated Worker Grant Policy and Procedures. Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's with great happiness and success I can say we did get this through, was approved. Move forward with the 4 new positions for this grant for the Title 1B position, for the Title 1B that actually work with MCC and AWC. And with that being said, I'm going to let the workforce manager, Sarah Ungaro, walk us through this, please.
Thank you, Director Smith. So these policies and procedures were put together with direct guidance from TGOL 2-22 and TGOL 16-21. from the Department of Labor, which completely goes through what the Department of Labor requirements are for this grant, how it will be, the background and purpose of it, specifically under Quest, and how it will be facilitated. The policy is very structured on exactly the eligibility requirement. The procedure is how we are able to provide these services and the training, and these are directly paired with not only that eligibility, but also within the MOUs that we have created with AWC and Mojave Community College. Both organizations have agreed to this with noted changes, specifically the verbiage about the eligibility to ensure that it states that those who are affected by COVID will qualify for this grant, and the sections in which we will be providing services within both areas, as MCC was targeting very specific trainings, and AWC had gone a little bit more robust in some of their training opportunities. So this policy specifically goes through that, including the monitoring and file reviews and how that should take place with agreements in place with MCC and AWC. Any questions or concerns on these policies and procedures?
Any questions at all for Sarah?
Madam Chair, I would just also add on this topic as well, is that when we did do the MOU IFA, we were held harmless in regards to working with OEO Cheryl Faulkner. Stacy Faulkner. She assured us that we wouldn't be held to any of the DOL requirements in regards to outcomes, so that was reassuring. We also made sure that in the MOU as well that we were held harmless in regards to any disallowable cost. Those would have to be absorbed by the community college as well, just so the board's aware.
Any questions for Director Smith on that? Okay, hearing that, I will entertain a motion to review and accept the Quest dislocated worker grant policy and procedures.
So moved.
Can I get a second, please?
This is Chana. I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We'll move on to item 5, discussion for the review and accept and possible action on review and accept updates to local policy and procedures. Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I had a chance to review these as well as to speak to the Workforce Development Manager, Sarah Angaro. Sarah explained to me that she reached out to the state in regards to updating the policies. We have the new auditor position filled, and it's my understanding through Sarah that it's going well. We really just, Sarah and her team, and then I'll let Sarah speak on it, but they really changed the formatting, and they also changed the way that it was actually listed, as opposed to having not only our policy and the state policy numbers and our CRFs, they changed that. So it's our policy and now a link. And so at this time, I'm going to ask Sarah, the Workforce Development Manager, to walk us through this.
Thank you, Director Smith. So this is a lot of policies. If you want to just kind of stop right there for me, Rachel. So as you can see, our heading has changed where we have the direct information of how this was approved, when it was approved and revised. It's no longer a kind of cover sheet. And within that actual cover sheet that we now have, it's clickable for staff or anyone that is going through our policies to take them directly to what they're needing. One of the biggest revisions that we made in our local policies was with the guidance from the state, removing any and all state verbiage. The state's guidance was, why would you reference our direct policies in your local level policies that should be specifically governed by your board? So all of these are directly towards what has been previously reviewed with the board and approved, with redaction of state or federal policies, and it just references those specifically, and then has additional attachments or addendums of documents that have been approved or as additional guidance to staff. So We've removed a lot of verbiage, specifically instead of reading large paragraphs, the procedure is directing on how you go through and actually complete these. So if you go into, I believe the first one is career coach protocol, and when you go into the actual procedural of that, it provides you a very comprehensive breakdown of this is exactly how you were supposed to do these things. A, this is what this means. B, this is how you are specifically supposed to facilitate it. One, and the additional kind of items below that of how to do that so that staff are directed specifically on how to function and flow within a policy and procedure instead of prompting further questions. So hopefully it makes it a little bit easier of a read and more directive for them. Were there any questions on these specifically? There was no changes to anything financial in these items in any way. There was nothing that really changed in any movement or verbiage other than that redaction from the state or like our overall scope of them. Work experience is still very much the same. That's the only policy on here that has something in regards to financial changes. At this time, policies for federal and state guidelines is that we have to, when they are adults, provide them stipend wages at minimum wage, no more than $15. Obviously, our minimum wage is increasing very quickly. So should that peak above 15 when we get further guidance, which I'm sure we will in the next year or two from DOL, we will be changing that policy with a change in that area. But stipend wages do not have a specific cap other than that $15 cap, and that is also movable specifically justifiable for the skill set that that individual is learning. So each position that a person is in work experience should be comparable to the skill set in which they're learning. Any questions or concerns on those large policies and procedures that we have changed and updated and really just kind of
Make it much more readable, easier to understand. Absolutely. So, yeah. Any questions at all with Sarah for this? Want to add to that, Director? Okay, none being heard, I would like to entertain a motion to review and accept updates to local policy and procedures.
So moved.
Thank you, Tommy. Can I get a second?
This is Chana. I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to item 6, review and accept changes to the local supportive services policy and procedures. Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So speaking with Sarah and looking at the current climate of where we're at, the program is asking for supportive services to move from 5,000 to 6,500. 6,000. I'm sorry, I stand corrected. 6,000. My memory isn't certainly right. Sarah, could you go ahead and give us an explanation of the justification for this and explain it further?
Absolutely. So we pulled information from the government specifically on inflation rates across Arizona. And we also recently went before the executive full board, increasing quite a few different tuitions, a lot of different support service. I think we had changed our cap of where we go when people are not in training from $1,500 to $2,500 due to inflation rates. At this time, we're looking at in just food and beverage, an overall increase from September of 2022 or from November of 21 to September of 22 of 9.9%. In dairy related products, we're looking at 16.6%. In meat, poultry, and fish, we're looking at 5.2%. Housing is another 7.3% increase. When we're looking at other primary residence or rentals, it's 8.3%. And for household energy utilities, it's 9.9%. Those are some huge rates. I do have some lovely charts here that I should have provided his backup, I apologize, but they're all moving up very significantly, not in any way dropping as COVID hit and things kind of went awry. Our entire inflation rate went through the roof, and with that, we want to make sure that we're supporting our participants to the best of our ability. We are hitting some roofs with that. We have participants who are having to go to trainings in other areas, and they are Mojave County residents, and our caps from their approval will have to go directly through myself with appropriate justification. So to move that, we have several areas of the support service policy that we're asking to be increased, and I can go through those specifically. So you're looking the total combined training service maximum funding limit for each participant. You are correct, it was 6,500. I apologize. That was previously 5,000. So
That's for training, I'm sorry.
So that is training services maximum funding limit for each participant. So when we're looking at combined training services, we only have that at about 5,000, and that's tools, supplies, anything that is related but not in an ITA to get someone to and from that training that is not listed on the ETPL. So we're asking for the overall support services policy for adult and youth to move to that amount. And it was previously at 5,000. We are also asking for that's in there correctly. Vehicle expense repairs, which is listed at $1,500 right now, to increase to 2,000.
That's part of the 6,500.
That's part of that, absolutely. So there's additional budgets within that overall, so we just kind of break it in there. We're asking for total transportation, so we're looking at being able to give people carpool expenses or gas assistance to and from those trainings or to and from work or whatever that may be, to be increased from 1,500 to 2,500. We're asking for rent, mortgage, and utility assistance to move marginally up from 1,300 to 1,500. It's a very small increase, but we feel that that would at least kind of put someone into a median area to where we're saying we're able to cover or assist you at this much. We want to make sure that you're able to budget and jump in to cover the additional part of that amount. And we have added in an additional portion to the tools policy that we're doing a funding limit for contractor tools to 2,000. So previously when it was different tools, we usually had a cap of about 1,500, which anybody that has worked in construction knows that is not getting them very much. We've got you a saw, so we're trying to move that up to 2,000 with the approval from the board. So those are the projected changes that are currently within that supportive service policy overall for additional changes.
Question,
Yes, sir.
what is, like, with the current budget, 5,000, how often are we maxing that out per candidate? I mean, does it happen regularly, or is it?
When we are putting people in training opportunities in Yuma, so they're residents here and we're having them travel to Yuma or to other areas where they have additional expenses. We currently have those in the police academy and they're not receiving per diem or additional funding to get there. We've already exceeded certain transportation budgets, and that has to be, again, every single time we go over that budget, every single request has to be documented with appropriate justification, of course, and approval from myself for that person to get their gas voucher again and again and again. And that's a 9-month training. So we are exceeding it more often than not, and we've seen that more so with the inflation rates, more than we've ever seen, really.
I have I don't know if it's a question or a comment, because like for the tools, for instance, we are reaching out to other partners, like,
Absolutely.
yeah, before we spend these dollars, when, like for tools, veterans, if they're a veteran, we can pull out and get the toolkit and get all that stuff paid for without using these funds. And
Very much so. So we go through all the other resources where we're working with either a voc rehab or a veteran toolkit, where they have that additional $750 budget to utilize to get those. If they are on TANF, they can also go through those funds before we're exhausting ours. So we want to make sure that we're not going through all of those avenues,
Perfect.
or we're going through all those avenues and we're not using our terms.
I understand what you
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And you feel 1,500 would be enough to cover the inflation?
Well,
should move that to 2,000 for the transportation,
yes, we're moving it from 5,000 to
the 65.
the 6,500. I feel that that gives us more wiggle room. It may not be a large drop in a bucket, but it's at least enough to move that bar, and then also to provide rounded resources paired with that, and then to also push back on their budgeting specifically.
But within this bucket, Sarah, only 2,000 of that can be spent for transportation,
Correct.
right? So see, that's where it gets a little sticky. It's not like they have 6,500
No.
a la carte, do whatever you need.
Yeah.
It depends on what you need it for.
Exactly.
And that's where you're saying you're approving that personally or with the right documentation?
With appropriate documentation. So if the board approves this, we can move some of those additional limits that are in our sports service policy up a tad, but it again is within that initial career plan. So when someone goes into training, not everyone is going to exceed this. It is going to be specifically, if this is where we're at, this is where our budget is, and this is how we support you throughout this time period. And not everyone needs rental assistance, not everyone needs utility assistance, not everyone needs tools, but when we have those needs, we want to make sure that we have the ability to stretch those dollars.
I feel confident that this would be enough as long as we are utilizing the other services that are out there first, so.
Madam Chair. I would also ask or add that having spoken to Sarah about this as well, I asked her in regards to these dollars or this amount of expenditures, do the participants have a plan? Are they being set goals before these things are enacted to make sure that as they go through this, that we're not just, increasing things along the way, they're not meeting the goals and things within it. But, and Sarah reassured me that, the participants' files are reviewed, they are meeting their requirements for their training programs and for their education to move this forward. So I think that's something also that should be noted, that this isn't just, here you go, here's the funds. They're actually working towards their end goal as well, and attaining those. That's it.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, I would like to have a motion, review and accept the changes to local sports services policy. Whoops, I'm doing that one. How about we review and accept changes to local supportive services policies and procedures. We're going to go from 5,000 to 6,500. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Tommy. Can I get a second?
I'll second, Chana.
Thank you, John. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We'll move on to item 7, and review and accept the changes to local individual training account policy and procedures. Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I had a chance to review this, and I also asked Sarah on this matter if there was, when the last time this policy was updated and where we're at, and to her knowledge, it hasn't been updated in at least the past 5 years. And these are some things, so I'm going to ask her to walk us through this policy as well. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Director Smith. So the last notable changes was with guidance from the state since 2019, but it wasn't with an actual limit increase. We're asking to increase the individual training account budget from 7,000 for out-of-school youth and in-school youth with the current allowance from the state and federal government to 7,000. Dislocated workers has always had a cap of 10,000, which we were wanting to keep at that level, but we were wanting to move up the youth and adult to 9,000, just below dislocated workers. And that's directly related to a lot of the increases that we've seen in tuition, books, fees, and licensures across the entire state and across the United States. Also within this does not just go to direct cost to tuition, books and fees, but we also have different things that can be listed on the ETPL for supplies that the participant is requiring. As long as it is listed specifically on the ETPL, we are able to provide those. If it is not, then it does not go under an ITA. So this is very stringent and strict that it does not go above whatever is listed specifically on that education training provider list that is approved here locally and at the state level. So.
Sarah, just to be clear, so this amount, the ITA, the individual training account policy procedure, that has not been increased since 2019?
The last. And I'm not certain if it was increased in 2019. I do not have a revision showing an increase in 2019. I do see verbiage that was changed at that time. So we've obviously seen some large changes, most notably the last executive board meeting we went through a number of changes for Mojave Community College and Regional Center for Border Health and Phoenix Truck Driving to ask for increases across all of their tuitions, fees, and book fees. We have not addressed that at our local policy level. How are we meeting that need with our participants? And this isn't a, hey, we're going to throw $9,000 at your education. This is, you have to apply for Pell grants. You have to show that you have applied for different funding sources before we even come in. And then we partner with them. If you were taking a student loan, then let's see what that budget looks like so that we can come in and cover. Obviously, we're going to be able to expand a $15,000 training, and it has to be within our ETPL allowances.
So we're currently at 7 and you want to go suggest 9?
9 for adults and youth services. Dislocated worker is at 10, or we'll
10. And that's where, because you can always move funds around if you need for an individual, but this is just individual. Got it? Any questions? Anybody on the phone have any questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to review and accept changes to the local individual training account policy and procedures.
So moved.
Thank you, Tommy. Can I get a second?
I'll second Shauna.
Thanks, Shauna. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We're moving on to item 8, review and approve Arizona Western College additional programs to be added to the ETPL. Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to ask the workforce manager, Sarah, to walk us through this, please.
Thank you very much, Director Smith. So Arizona Western College is asking to add 2 additional programs onto the ETPL. These would be supported currently with WIOA Title I-B funds as well as the Quest DWG grant. So these are both for within the medical or healthcare field for community health worker and medical coding and billing. These are both certificate courses and can be stackable.
Any questions, concerns? Tommy?
I do not.
Anybody on the phone have any questions? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to review and approve the Arizona Western College additional programs to be added to the ETPL.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 9. Review and approve Mojave Community College additional programs to be added to the ETPL. Director?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to ask the workforce manager, Sarah, to walk us through these, please.
Great, thank you. So the first course that MCC is asking to be added onto the ETPL, again, very similar to Arizona Western College, will be supported by WIOA Title I-B funds and the Quest Dislocated Worker Grant. Not all of them will go for Quest, but some of the medical will definitely be supported in those areas. The first is for intravenous IV certified licensed practitioners or an LPN. The second is for first responder training. There is a community health worker, administrative assistant training, and that has Yes, 5 90-minute modules, lean process improvement, which goes into. Get my backup. Principles of continuous improvement with lean, to adopt a very formal process or commit to something less structured, principle of improvement of bottom line, reducing waste, time, resources. It has various certificates that businesses are able to send their staff to so that they can gain these and then increase their functioning. This was something that several local businesses had asked for in combination with Six Sigma training. And the last is continuous improvement. So those three all kind of go together and can flow within themselves depending on what that employer or agency is wanting for their staff or for their management team. And these are all cert, non-credit forming. So they're able to get them, structure them outside of normal scheduling. Are there any questions or concerns in regards to those?
Okay, can I get a motion to review and approve Mohawk Community College additional programs to be added to the ETPO?
So moved.
Thank you, Tommy. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Donna. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Move on to item 10. Review and approve Phoenix truck driving satellite programs to be added to the EPTO. Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, well, this was brought to the board a little while back at one of our previous meetings. The board approved it. The total cost of the program, the concern through, as Sarah identified, and working with the guidance to the state, was that all of the programs needed to be individually listed by the site, and we didn't have that, and that's where we're at now. So we've updated the cost and the sites, and it's been put on the EPTO.
So you did motion that?
Yes.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Because I remember we talked about the Colorado City, I think it was, what came of that?
So they are, it was approved by the board at the total amount of $5,850. With that and guidance from the state is that we have to have each individual satellite site added onto the ETPL specifically. So the overall cost for the entire program, whether it is in Kingman, Lake Havasu, Parker, Bullhead, and Colorado City, will be at that increased amount to incur the costs of the travel to each of those sites, the DOT approval, and the increased fuel that they're going to have for when they're traveling and providing services in those areas. So this is still the same amount. It's still the same thing. It's just adding it on individually to each of those. The backup is not showing you all of the information from the ETPO because we are at a snag at the state where their IT is actually helping us right now because our state system is not wanting to add them. So as soon as we get the approval from the board and the system wants to work, we will have them all added into those areas at the increased amount. And we have already rolled out our first cohort because it was not listed as requested by the state. We did not charge those individuals, or we were not increased in tuition, and we did respect the previous tuition amount of the $44.95 and did complete our first cohort in Bullhead City beginning on December 14th, and that completed towards the end of the month, and we're looking to roll out in Lake Havasu City by April.
Nice. Any questions? Anybody on the phone have any questions? Okay, can I get a motion to review and approve Phoenix truck driving satellite programs to be added to the ETPO?
So moved.
Thank you, Tommy. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Shauna. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to item 11, review and accept the WIOA data validation closure letter TY22 to Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this letter speaks for itself. This is just the final for the year, for program year 22. Everything's been corrected and closed, and there's nothing that needs to be done at this time. No action needs to be taken.
Any questions or concerns? Okay, we'll move on to item 11, review and approve their draft Workforce Development Board meeting agenda for January 26, 2023 meeting. Director?
All right, so we're gonna run through this really quick. And I'll just go through it. If there's items that, as we go through it, please let me know, and we'll go from there. Number 1, number 2, we've already discussed, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Next time we'll add this to the end of our agenda. I apologize. So these are the different items on here, just to be aware. Everything that we do here, we carry forward to the full board. The reason why we put these here, just so everybody's aware, is that if you don't get a quorum, we can pass these in exec. If they're passed in exec, then they'll go to the board for ratification the next time we have a quorum, so that's why they're put on here. There's several items that we'll be adding, just so the board is aware. And then we can go from there, and if there's any other concerns after we go through the agenda, we can just address it then. But just so that everybody's aware, the last time the exec met, we talked about having the leadership committee for reviewing finances. That will be Kenda and myself, and the partners identified through DES, and we will put that to the board so they're aware. And then the next one that we'll add will be the one-stop operator. We'll also add that recommendation as well. That recommendation will be done through Madam Chair, Vice Chair Tommy Taylor, and myself for the RFP. That has to be done because we have to be in person, sign the confidentiality, go from there. And we'll bring that recommendation to the board so that it can be approved and then taken to the Board of Supervisors for approval on the same the first meeting in February. So that's why it's important that we get that done on the 26th, just so everybody's aware. That'll be on the agenda. The other item that will be added to the agenda, we will be doing a transfer of funds of dislocated worker, and that will also be added, and those funds and where we're at with our expenditures and things of nature, we will give an update when we provide that transfer and justification for the dislocated workers as well. Those are the items that I have. Madam Chair, if there's anything else you'd like added or removed from the agenda, we can. Questions or concerns about the agenda? Or we can come back to it after we go through.
That was my concern. I think.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll come back to item 12 once we're finished, before we approve the agenda for the next meeting.
Sure, and Madam Chair, if I could, I think it's not on here, but we should also add it as an agenda item for the full board as well. Is in regards to our committees, it was brought up, looking at those as well. The Transportation Committee, the Program Area Committee, and the Business Service Committee. We should really look at the format and the structure of those committees. And I think too, when we come back to it, I'll just say it now, but I think when we come back to it, part of what one of the recommendations should be for that is that those committees provide a closeout of where they're at. So as we form the committees, we then can provide guidance to the board at the meeting on the committees of where they're at. I just think that would help the board members understand where our committees are at and add that as an agenda item. But we can come back to this after we get through the whole agenda like we discussed.
Okay.
That's it, Madam Chair.
Okay, we're going to go on to item 13. And this is regarding the Mojave La Paz Housing Study. Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So part of this is we reached out last year to Hunter Smith to see if we could use funds from administration on Title 1B. Hunter Smith gave us direction on how we could do that. We will be doing that as part of the study. The group that's putting on the housing study is FJS. They'll actually be putting on just a brief discussion and asking local area and people what they're seeing for workforce housing and what struggles those are to meet, and really introducing themselves. So just giving the board members as well as core partners an opportunity to engage with them at a later date. They will be here on site the 25th, 26th, and 27th of January, and then there'll be further meetings as well. But I want to make sure that the board was aware of that. There's also 2 board members that sit on the steering committee for this, one of them being Vice Chair Tommy Taylor, and the other being Tammy Ursenbach for economic development, as well as myself for that housing study. So that's all I have on that, Madam Chair, unless there's any questions.
We don't need to get a motion on that. Okay, any questions, concerns? Okay, moving on to item 14. Review of the program year 21 SAM adjusted level performance data. Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So here, we met most of our performance measures for this. This is the final SAM, so this is the actual final analysis of it. All the programs look good. When you look at the numbers, just be aware that if you see a number over the percentage, it's because we need to meet 90% of the measure that we've identified. So that isn't always 100%, so you can go over that in that percentage. And you can see we did that in a couple areas as well. I think if we just start with the goal for the state in an overall program, I would say the goal of the state is 90%. Our goal is 90%. But with that being said, I'd much rather see us come in at 95. Bless you. I'd rather see us come in at 95 than 90 and just meet our goal. We achieved higher than the goal, so that's a positive. If you look also at dislocated worker, we beat our goal, by a good percentage there too, 15, almost 16 points. So that's another good thing there. Overall, if you look at the youth performance, we were close to meeting the state goal of 90%. We fell just short by 0.4. But I will add to this item is that, and these measured outcomes and the things where we're at, but what I would do is I'd like to take a moment in time as well, just to provide some clarification. And I don't mind doing this for the board as well at the meeting, but if you look at where the programs come in the past year and what we've overcome, we lost several key staff members in leadership positions, which Sarah was appointed workforce manager, led a team, hired key individuals. I believe that the program is making strides on the Title 1B in a great direction. I expect and know that Sarah and her team will deliver higher numbers than what we're seeing here today. And I know that's through the hard work that she's done, not only through Atlas and changing some of those things, because those things will have direct relations to our measurable skills and tracking and other information that we need to make a difference. So I have complete confidence that these measurable skill gains will go up and we'll be in a better place when we do this again next year. Any questions? No. Sarah, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Sarah, would you like to expand upon anything?
I think mostly when we're looking at a lot of these is the data that flows from our systems is quite intricate. A lot of people, when they look at them, they think, This is all within a program year. Our measurable skills gains are captured for all of those that are currently within our program years across all of our programs. So for adult dislocated workers, those are those that are here from July 1st until June 30th. Although that would seem to take the cake for all of them, credentials are actually not attained until someone exits our program. And those are within the year after they have been in our program that we were actually able to acquire those. So if someone completes a credential in our program, we cannot actually say that they completed or obtained that credential until they have been out of our program for a year. And within youth, they have to have been employed within the second and fourth quarter to even note that they received that credential. Otherwise, we do not get any credit for it. You do not pass go. You were just kind of done in the water. So it is very intricate. And then educating staff on those areas, especially your new staff, it's like speaking a completely different language. So we are to the point where they're starting to grasp what we are saying. And I think a large change is to show them this exact information and say, so this is where we met the mark, this is where we did not, and this is how we go into our reports that have to be pulled and then sent out and then drilled down again and again and again into our system to move those dials. So it's not to say that we're not meeting them, it's to ensure that the data is in there and then also that the staff are understanding of what they're inputting is going to actually meet those desired outcomes so that we can get the credit for all of their hard work instead of, well, you're failing to meet our outcomes again. Well, no, that's not the case. We just have to ensure that it's in there. And that's my synopsis of this data.
I have a question for you on the youth. Do they have to be employed both second and fourth or either? Or you can't report until?
Oh, they have to be employed for a credential. They have to be employed for both second and fourth quarter. The credential is not accepted.
Ever.
Correct.
Now, is that information included in this 89.6% on the youth? Or is that actual?
Yes, that's if they did not get second and fourth.
So this is actual numbers.
Yes.
So that's pretty darn good. You take all that into consideration, missing it by 4/10 is pretty amazing.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Wow.
And also, I know that during the PRC, Tommy did note that during the time that we were reviewing the numbers, that our actual negotiated measures versus what was the adjusted measure for dislocated worker went up 3.1%. So although we had met that mark at a little bit above 90%, we still, the bar was moved.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
But Madam Chair, moving forward in regards to these statistical analysis measures for the SAM, and when you look at these numbers are based upon several years of information, plus the information moving forward. So as the more time that we spend, the less the movement of the bars will be, just to be aware.
Sure. This is discussion only. Is there any questions at all? Moving on to item 15, the election to Workforce Development Board and Committee positions, Chair, Vice Chair, and Secretary. Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So yes, we will need to fill the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary, as well as committee positions, which we can do nominations for. The way we did it in the past is we just asked people to not, if somebody wanted to nominate someone for that, and they could. And then from there, the chair asked for a motion. They would put forth an motion, and then they went from there. And they were approved by the board in a round robin voting to get to that measure. So that's currently where we're at to move that. And that's all I have on that. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. When we get to this here, Madam Chair, the things to be aware of, the chair and the vice chair need to be business. They need to be business representatives for the chair and the vice chair. The secretary position, just so everybody's aware, could be any board member. However, we as a local workforce provide the minutes to the secretary for review from Rachel, and then they're approved at the board meeting. That's it, Madam Chair.
Any questions for Director?
No.
Do you have any questions? Connor still with us?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 16, the on-site visit from Department of Economic Security, Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We met yesterday, with, her name's eluding me, was it Lizette? Lizette. And basically, she reviewed, the site. We're a significant site due to the numbers of we're a significant site due to the numbers of seasonal farm workers. However, in the past 2 years, we've received 0 enrollments from farm workers, is my understanding. Della and her team answered most of the questions. There was only a question, I think it wasn't a finding, but it was a question or a concern, was making sure that our front staff, desk staff knew who the complaint specialist was for employment services. It is the staff that's actually in the building. That's been addressed. We met with Della and Sarah and I and Mrs. Fernandez to do this. Like I said, there was no findings or observations. It was just a couple little concerns. Those were addressed, and I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. I'm not for sure. I'm going to ask Sarah to expound upon if we want to be significant or not in regards to our in regards to being identified as a significant site. Sarah, if you would please.
Thank you. So at this time, our meeting with the state in regards to migrant seasonal farm workers in our area, we have 322 identified individuals who are actually employed as farm workers in Kingman or surrounding areas. None of those are currently actually receiving services through employment services, and that's where it's tracked. This is 2 years at this time that data has not shown that we have had any enrolled, I believe since 2020 to current. So at this time, she has provided information to the state, and I believe the guidance is that we will be removed as a significant site. We did share that we have been providing outreaches to the different local agricultural sites to ensure that the employers as well as their staff can receive services, know about what we offer here, and try and get them to engage. And we'll continue to do so. And that is noted within our current logs when individuals come in to enroll, asking them if they have ever at any point in time been a migrant or a seasonal farm worker, or if they've been employed within agriculture within the last 12 months. So we have made those changes should anyone come into our local facilities across Mojave and Foss County. And again, we will continue to go out to those agricultural sites.
Sarah, any idea where these 300 people are coming from? We had a bus, they bus folks in.
That was actually one of the questions that we had asked the state specifically, and we've asked for that data so that we know who is currently residing in our area and where they're traveling in from, so that we can support them to the best of our ability. So we're asking for that from the state so that we can target it a little bit better, as long as there is additional information and we know how we can serve them and they meet the eligibility requirements for us. So.
My thought is we should have some kind of, I mean, like, how do they know we're here to help them if we don't tell them?
Madam Chair, so that was something that was discussed as well, and Sarah and her team have done outreach to those local areas as farms and so forth and so on, so that has been addressed as well.
Okay, thank you.
Part of the backup information here on this as well, so there was actually 2 on-site visits, or one that's going to be upcoming as well. The one that we're also scheduled for upcoming will be in April for DES, so that's what you see on the board. This year, we did this last year. Sarah was part of the conversation, as well as Chairman Thornberry at the time. This really is not a gotcha moment. The state just came in and said, can we talk? And we did this last one via Teams last year. They just want to see what are best practices, how are your offices running, what does it look like, and really just meeting. And I think this will be excellent because this will be an opportunity where we actually have comprehensive centers now, as opposed to the last time we did this, we did not have comprehensive centers. Being that all of our area, all the PAWS is comprehensive, I think this will be a good opportunity to showcase what we're doing here in Mojave PAWS. And that's all I have.
I have an additional thought to that as well, because the farm workers are also the responsibility of the state. So that part of that responsibility also falls on them to have that person available for the migrant seasonal farm workers. If we've been identified as a substantial area, then we need to make sure they have representation for those workers as well. So just food for thought.
Madam Chair, if I may, that was noted by the representative from the state yesterday.
Any questions, Tommy?
Nope.
Anna, any questions?
No.
Thank you. Moving on to item 17, Workforce Development Board Recertification Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So part of this here, they requested all the information be uploaded by January, I believe. It's 3rd, 2023. This is basically all the different things that we have. Board member rosters, we pretty much followed what was done in previous years and the information that was requested here. The one area of concern, it's not necessarily an area of concern, but I think we just need clarification, and we need to go back and when we look at the youth standing committee, have a conversation the next time we have youth standing of that committee and those appointments. That's it, Madam Chair. Otherwise, all the information was submitted as required.
Any questions? Johnny, you have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Thank you. Moving on to item 18, Title II Reports, Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Title II reports. So it's my understanding, and we were supposed to be receiving these reports all along. I've never seen a report. Having not received a report or knew of that, started engaging with Craig Lefevre, asked him about having a report for the board because I thought it was something that the board should have for Title II or some information. When I reached out to Title II provider for the state, I spoke with Cheryl Hart, who referred me to Patrick Brown. Patrick Brown actually handles the reports. I emailed him asking for reports or cost reports for the past 2 years from Mojave La Paz. Currently, we don't have significant numbers, so they could not provide that information. With that being said, Madam Chair, I asked that in an email. I'm waiting on that, is that if that is the case, that he just provide that information so the board is aware that, we do have we're not seeing the amount of individuals that we should for Title II, and we can work with our Title II partners to make sure they're getting the referrals or the information that's needed. And that's all I have on that, Madam Chair.
Any questions for Director? Moving on, Mojave La Paz Workforce Committee, Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is an interesting one. Sarah and Madam Chair, Sarah and Rachel and I all attended the Arizona Work Committee down in Scottsdale, I believe. And we had an opportunity really to see the different ways that things were done. Having looked at that and really seeing where we've been at as an Arizona at Work and where we're at currently to really change the dynamics of how we move forward, I thought of proposing this to the board and really seeing the board lead these discussions. This is important for 2 reasons. The board gives strategic guidance to Title I-B in regards to sectors in demand and the areas that they want to see focused on for the plan as well. So part of doing this convening, we could use this information for our local plan in addition to other resources for the development of that plan, as well as I really feel that with the Quest grant, if we time this in April or March, we really can help ramp up where we're at, with opportunities for businesses as well as people to provide the information and get the word out. These are some areas that I thought would be great. The way I envisioned it working is that we would identify the local sectors. From there, the different board members would work with our business coordinator as well as Sarah Ungaro, our workforce manager, to bring those local folks to the table to have the discussions as we did it. I also would say that being that there's certain areas as well, we want to make sure that we cover all of them at once, meaning that we would try to find facilities in either 3 of the local areas, or it could even be 5, meaning that we would identify the major areas depending on board support and staff support of right now currently the 3 major cities, which would be Bullhead, Kingman, and Havasu. If we have the extra support from the staff and the board want to move forward, we could look at doing things in Colorado City as well as Parker La Paz County in Parker. But really, Madam Chair, this is something that I feel this board is comprised of 51% business. The business community should be driving these conversations. And we should be there to support them in their needs, to make sure these different things are happening. I also believe, Madam Chair, that we should do this from an ecosystem, meaning that we should have all the parties at the table when we're doing this, not only so that we can hear those suggestions and ideas, but so that we can formulate a plan to how we address these current needs within the community with our local businesses. So this is what I would suggest here, and really turn it over to you, Madam Chair, for your guidance and the direction that you'd like to see for the local board.
Sure. No, I absolutely 100% agree. This needs to be a board driven, and I think this is an important thing that we do. We just need to get, my concern is getting the board members that will actually attend and want to do this. That is my whole concern with this. And we'll talk more about it. Yeah.
Sure.
Any questions or concerns, Tommy?
I share the same thing you do.
Shauna?
Yeah, I too, but I would love to see it. I think it's a great idea. And if we can get it going, I think it would be very well received by the businesses.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree as well. Okay. So just move on to item 20, local governance training, Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So with this being said, we have a lot of new board members. I think, and I haven't done the numbers, but I need to. I think over the past year and a half, I think we're probably close to 50% turnover for the board. If not, well over a third, I can say for sure, number-wise. And this opportunity here, if you click on the link, can you do it? We should be able to do it. Rachel,
Yep.
do it. Look at that, it pays to have smart board. Wow, all right, so here, right, if you go down local governance training, Rachel, love the smart board.
I know.
Right, so click on the local governance tab, there you go. So here, right, you can actually see rules and responsibilities. They have a video recording. These are local different trainings, the MOU IFA video training. I mean, so there's a lot of different things here that local board members can see and understand and get guidance on how things are supposed to be done. As well as it'll be nice for the board just to see where they can go for landing pages on how WIOA functions and the different things that should be done. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Can I suggest with that, Director, that when we have the discussion with the board members going forward, that this be part of the training? This is what we do, this is what you need to see, you know what I'm saying? Right from the start, because I think that would take care of twofold. It would take care of one saying, whoa, that's gonna be, I can't do that. So we know that right at first, or have a better understanding going forward to it.
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to piggyback on that because when I came in, you know, a lot of this was foreign language, 'cause
Sure.
coming from private sector to how the government, you know, the necessary processes and steps you have to take. Like I asked for like an orientation to what are we supposed to do, how's it supposed to proceed, and how we're supposed to do it. So it might not be a bad idea to do that once in a while. I mean,
As a refresher as well.
Yeah, because I would gladly, because I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years. And
That's second, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I would be happy to go back through that again just to refresh, because it's
Yeah.
it's a lot, especially it's a fire hose when you come in. At first, like, what are we supposed to do?
Madam Chair, I would just add that we do provide this, and have provided this to new board members, and we'll continue to do that. That's a great suggestion. I think too is, if you see these videos and you don't have any background information into it,
Right.
it makes it a little more difficult to really wrap your head around it, and some of the videos, Madam Chair, may be hard to sit through.
Yeah.
But it's great information, it needs to be there, but I think when you sit through a meeting or you see the core partners, or you can see some of the different things, at least a meeting and then go to this.
Right.
You can kind of wrap your head around it a little more to know, all right, well, they talked about this partner and this in the meeting, and these were the reports of this. But we do share this, and then Madam Chair, I can definitely make sure that we share this with everyone in advance. And it can be their decision, and we can give them that guidance, you know, maybe review this, you know, within the first 6 months, and then go from there.
Sure. Like a quiz.
Right? Then they stop showing up, then they stop showing up.
Yeah, I know,
Or
right.
they're like, thanks, but no thanks.
Exactly.
And there's no action needed there, Madam Chair.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we need to go back to item 12. I need a motion, we saw enough people, correct? Yes, feel free to. To review, we need to approve the draft workforce development board meeting agenda for January 26, 2023 meeting. Can I get a motion?
Madam Chair, if I could, before we go forward, so just to also be aware in discussions with Sarah, she also brought to my attention that there'll be some ETPL items that will be added as well.
Oh, perfect, okay.
For this. And then I would just ask, is there anything else that you'd like to see on the agenda, Madam Chair? And then in regards to the committees, I know we talked briefly
Yeah,
about
we
it.
do have a question about the committees.
Yes,
We talked about reporting. Now, were you doing closeout reporting, Director? Are you talking about like quarterly? Like for each workforce development board, the Title II should be, or even all the boards should be doing like a closeout reporting quarterly? Is that what you're
no,
thinking?
Madam Chair, I think what I'm looking at for the closeout is that I think as a board, we should review the committees that we set up, the transportation committee, the program barrier committee, and the business committee. Those 3 committees really haven't met or performed, I would say, at the level of engagement that we need to have as a local workforce board. I don't know if there's not enough resources or support, but I think as a closeout, before we ask to have the committees combined
Gotcha.
or look at combining members or vote on this at the next meeting, of appointing people for these, right? What does that look like? And is that something the board wants to move forward with?
But can we reach out to them before the next meeting and ask them to submit those closeout reports?
I believe we can and we should, Madam Chair.
Yeah, I also agree.
So that we're not having a meeting to have a meeting and 6 months later.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Sure. I'll do that and I'll copy the executive committee on an email as well.
Shauna, you have any questions or concerns about that?
No, I'm on board with you guys.
No? No. Okay, so now I need to have a motion to review and approve the draft workforce development board meeting agenda for January 26, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Thomas. Hey, Thomas. That's Tommy and Shauna together.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. So at this point, we're going to, you guys have questions? Okay, we're gonna move on to the reports. I see I'm first this time, to like take director's place last time. I really don't have that much to report. We have a lot going on, a lot of things we're we're trying to take care of. I do, very concerned about the attendance and everything going forward for our board meetings, because I think this is very important. We need to be here and be present, but I really don't have any reports at this time at all. Do you have any questions for me? No? Director, you can report.
Madam Chair, so we've met with the state in regards to our Atlas system, and we did get that approved through the MOUIFA, so. Right, so that was a big lift, that was a big relief. We received guidance for the executive committee to be aware that part of what we want to do more than just with Atlas is say, all right, yeah, we have Atlas, yeah, they're dual enrollments, yes, we're doing those things and we're entering the information, but is there a way that we can have the two systems talk to one another? We've been in discussion with the state now for, gosh, I would say 4 or 5 months, trying to move the bar, and it seems a couple of times the goalposts might have been moved, but it seems like moving forward, we secured an agreement with DES that they would, if 6 local boards agreed to use Atlas or consider using Atlas, that they would approach AJC and see if there's an opportunity for the systems to talk and integrate. There would be some costs associated with that. We said we would circle back and look at those costs at that time of what that may be, how that's funded and what that looked like. So that was the first thing that I had. We also attended the Arizona Work meeting. We got to meet a lot of different other board members, as well as different people from DES, as well as economic development. So those were some great meetings. And I would say overall, I'm just really happy to see the direction of where Title I-B is going. I feel that for my time being here, a little over 2 years, the program was really geared more one way, and that was participant. And really, WIOA Title I-B is supposed to be 2. It's supposed to be business. It should be participant, and it should be business. And I think with our new business coordinator and the phenomenal things that Sarah's been doing with her team, I finally see that coming to fruition and really changing the way the program has been run. And it's a very pleasant addition. So I just wanted to conclude with that and say thank you.
Okay, so at this time, any executive committee member who wishes to share information can come forward with their announcements.
Not really an announcement, but I don't know, I'm sure you have, but this morning on Facebook with the B, we saw the Arizona at Work video. It was pretty cool with the first responders and stuff, so that was pretty neat to see pop up on my timeline.
Nice.
Thank you.
Shauna, do you have anything at all
Well,
you'd like?
I don't have any announcement. I just had a question though. I have on my calendar a meeting on the 19th. Is that still a good meeting to be in Kingman for?
So Shauna, part of that is that to come back to that for we needed people prior to this meeting starting. We met with the procurement department and we needed people in person to sign the confidentiality report for the RFP because you weren't able to make it, as well as Mr. Brewster. We can't move forward with that. If we did, we would have, the option that would have happened is we would have to push the meeting back and to have you guys present to hand out the packets and to do that information and do the evaluation. So what we did is through the executive committee, obviously the members are here, we're still moving forward. It's just that the people that were on that committee is 2 less now as opposed to yourself and Mr. Brewster.
Okay. I don't think that was clear that we needed to be there in person today, because I did have it originally that we did to it and then I changed it. So I'm sorry.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anything else? Shauna?
No.
Okay. All right, so we're going to call the public. This is a public meeting, so anybody on the phones have anything, any questions or anything for the board? Hearing none, with no other topics needing to be discussed, I will adjourn this meeting.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
Bye, thank you.